presentation on influencing perception of consumer in case of McDonald's brand in UK. So we're going to start with the introduction and background first. We're going to define perception, which is the ability to organize, identify, and interpret sensory information in order to make decisions. So when we talk about sensory information, we're talking about how we collect information. So basically, we have senses, eyes, ears, and we can taste, we can feel, we can touch things, and that's how we actually get the information. And then that information is processed in our brain, and then we respond as to that. Then we're going to define brand, which is a tangible and intangible feature of a product or service that a business stands for. Then, with increase in competition and global market reach, need for brand management has increased significantly, not just to differentiate a unique character of the product, which helps it in standing out of the queue, but also to decide the loyalty of the customer in long term. So, brand is not just a word these days; it's actually a unique character of a product. That's how we define it. So, if you are identifying something specially and separately from other things, then definitely it's a brand. That's why you're actually identifying it separately, and it is actually a very a good determinant of where the customer's loyalty is gonna lie. A brand is considered strong when a customer's attitude strengthens because of the association that the customer feels with the brand. So if I feel associated with any particular brand, I'm definitely gonna buy things of that company very frequently, and my attitude is going to be really strong with that company because I will have a much more positive attitude with that company than any other company. A brand name and recognition by customer for something that it stands out from its competitor is the core in fast food business. So a brand name, not just in fast food business, but in every other business, is actually a very important aspect of business. So it actually is a recognition by customer for something that it stands out from. So there is something different in every single company or brand that makes it different from the rest of the competitors. Then every fast food chain has some basic attributes that makes it different and are the core of the customer base the company has. For example, KFC is known for its particular feature of chicken. Brand name reduces customers' insecurity about financial health and other risks, which is actually a benefit to those who plan to take franchisee of a specific company. So basically what we want to make in this point is that if someone is planning to buy a franchisee, there are a lot of reasons why actually paying that much money. So reasons are very clear because he gets a pre-established business. He is not something that needs to be recognized in order to get customers into his shop. So people are not going into his shop because they know the owner or because he's marketing anything. It's because of the pre-established market that the company owns or the company has or the customer group that the company holds in the market. Uh, Branding defines a fast food or restaurant business and its reason for existence, which motivates employees to maintain a standard as per their reputation in the market. So when we're talking about any business or a fast food business, then we have to understand this that every employee that works for the company actually knows that what kind of reputation that the company holds in the market. So whatever he does, he actually makes sure that anything that he does is not actually impacting the reputation of the company because if that's happening, then it's actually a big problem for the employer. And he is more responsible in whatever way he acts. Then marketing, demographic, and product service analysis. Demographic is a group of people classified or sliced into categories based on gender, religion, or time in which they were born. Also, people can be divided into social class, income group, location, or language. A market demographic is a group of people who are likely to buy or use a product or service, and hence marketing efforts are directed to this group. So basically, when we subcategorize people into gender, religion, or time, or social class, income group, location, or language, there is a reason why we are categorizing them because we want to classify people that they are going to like our product or not. That's what we want to segregate them into. So when we categorize them, then we expect a particular sort of behavior from them, which on which we are going to base our marketing strategies. So also a branch system is followed. For example, a woman of age 26 to 30 who has graduated and owns a house. So basically, what we want to say is Oh, there are so many women who are aged between 26 and 30, but not all of them are graduate. And if they are graduate, then not everyone of those women owns a house. So that's how we subcategorize them. So that's why we call it a branch system. Then product service analysis is based on the product you have, why the consumer should buy it. It includes defining your product and the market need of your product, the demand and supply of the product, and if there is a gap, how you will fill it. So, for example, product service analysis is based on the product you have. So, sort of product that you actually have, you must understand what is the product, what is the core of the product, what is its usage for the customer. So, you need to understand the usage first, and you will tell the customers very well that this is the particular use of the product. And also you need to understand who are the other suppliers in the market of the same product. So what is the demand and supply of the product? And if there is a gap between the demand and supply, and if you feel that you can actually serve the customers better than the competitor, then definitely that's a gap, and you can fill that gap and you can earn money from there. And product differentiation and value proposition is another important factor to consider, which means what is that you are offering to customers and justifying the price and value for the customers to influence them to buy your product over your competitor. So it's quite related to the price thing as well, because whenever someone is buying something, he makes sure that whatever he's buying and whatever money he's paying, is the product is actually worth the price. So to justify the price is actually the responsibility of the seller as well. Because if you're not doing that, the customer is gonna buy the thing once and then it's not gonna come back again to you. The theoretical framework, what is the theoretical framework we are gonna use in this case? So consumer behavior is something that we need to define first, which is actually engagement of people in activities and process when they are searching, selecting, purchasing, using, evaluating and disposing of products and services so as to fulfill their desires and needs. Then types can be further divided into four categories. The first is rational behavior. So customers who show this behavior first gain knowledge about the product or service and what it is, what it has in it for them. This forms an attitude in the consumer, and then they decide whether they should buy it or not. So the rational behavior initiates with getting knowledge from the customer. So most of the customers that we see in the market are actually behave in this sense, or are actually behaving in a rational way. So they first try to understand about the product. They try to get as much as knowledge they can possibly get, and they do their research first. Then they decide whether they should buy the product or not. So that's how most of the people do. Then comes the unconscious behavior. Customer with this behavior generates the attitude first from emotions or feeling. Then this leads to finding out more information about the product and then decide. So basically, at times we don't have the knowledge of the product, but we want to buy it because we have some sort of inclination towards it. We have some feelings towards the product. So we just want to buy it because, however, we don't have much information, but because we have a corner somewhere in our psychology or in our heart or emotionally or otherwise. So we just go to buy it, and when we go there, we start researching for that. So we actually inverse the rational behavior. So we first go to see the product, then we try to figure out the information about the product, and then we decide whether we should buy it or not. Then learned behavior. This behavior is a result of habits a person might have, and it's unplanned. Someone goes to buy a product in the store and buy many other things, as well as someone might not buy what he wanted to buy, what he wanted to, but end up buying something totally different. So basically, this behavior means we have some sort of habits. Every individual has some sort of habits. So for example, so many times people go to buy something and they buy that particular thing, and they buy a lot of other things as well. That's the human behavior. And sometimes people are like me, who actually go to stores, and I don't buy usually those things which I wanted to buy at times, and I would buy something else rather which I feel more attracted towards. So I'm actually more influenced by the marketing strategies of the company, or the sort of things that I like. My preferences are different at times, so I usually don't buy things that I targeted to buy, and I, by ending up other things that are actually not relevant to me at that particular moment. So then consumer buying behavior is defined by his attitude intention, preference, and time to commitment, and the consumer's way of identification. It's decided by many internal and external factors. So, what are the factors that we are going to talk about? Then, first is need recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase behavior. So let's define all these things altogether. Need recognition is when a consumer desires or wishes to have something at a point of time which can be due to external or internal stimuli. So when a consumer desires or wishes to have something at a point of time. So for example, let's say I'm feeling hungry. I want to eat something, right? So basically my desire to eat something is because I'm feeling hungry. So my stimuli is that I am feeling hungry. That's why I want to eat something. So the action is eating something and the stimuli is I'm feeling hungry. Then information search is the first step when customer starts looking for resources to satisfy his needs. So when I'm feeling hungry, I can eat so many things. So I will start searching for which thing I want to eat. I want to eat spicy, I want to eat sweet, I want to eat something in liquid, a drink or something like that. Then alternative evaluation is the step when a product is decided but multiple alternatives are there. So for example, let's say I want to buy something to wash my hands. I can go either for hand wash, I can go for soap as well. But then I decided I would go with a soap. Then further, there are so many companies in soap like Toilet or Pond's or any other company. So I have to decide which company I would prefer and which company I would buy. This is a critical point as it eliminates either you or your competitor based on customer's specific choice influenced by price, liking, etc. So basically, when I am, oh, I now know that I want to buy a soap, but now there are so many companies in front of me, and I have to eliminate other companies because I can only buy one or two soaps, right? So why am I eliminating other companies? Because I definitely have some sort of inclination towards one company, and what is the reason of my inclination? The reasons are very clear because I feel that that's more uh, that branding is more attracting me to it itself. So that's the important thing for me. So, for example, if you need to have some fruit, you might end up buying a juice instead. So, for example, someone wants to eat some fruits, and he actually might end up buying the juice because he feels more attracted by the juice brand. Then, purchase decision is made when a product is locked by customer and he's ready to pay for it and then pays. So, what do we mean by purchase decision? Purchase decision is basically when we decide, yeah, this is something that I want to buy, and then we finally pay for it. That's the entire process of purchase decision. So, post-purchase decision is his attitude towards the product after consumption and the process where he compares the product with his expectations. So, for example, I expect a lot from so many things. For example, let's say I am buying a cheesecake or anything like that, but I've not tried the company before. So I buy it and then I eat it and then I realize it's not actually that good. So that's time when I actually, start evaluating my decision whether it was worth it or whether my decision was perfect or it was bad or it was average or something like that. So that will actually decide whether I will go for it again in future or not. Then factor influencing consumer perception of a brand includes quality is one of the important aspects of brand identify as defined by ICLA. So quality is very important factor because every single brand that we see is actually a brand because of the quality of the product, right? I want to go, I want to go to buy an ice cream. I want to buy clothes. I want to buy shoes. I want to buy watches. So we have got so many companies, local, branded, luxurious, and every sort of thing. But we will prefer a branded one because we know that we will get a sort of quality standard at least there surely, and that's why we don't actually prefer local things most of the time, right? The price is a factor that can be considered in either of the directions. Lowest if the budget is very restricted, or highest if the budget is high but quality is concerned. So price is actually a very important determinant whether he's going to buy a product or not. So, for example, if let's say I want to buy something which is of very general use, let's say I want to buy a toothbrush or a clothes washing brush or anything like that, then I'm not concerned about the quality much. I just want a soft bristle brush, right? So I won't be looking for companies and stuff like that. I would be looking, okay, this is good, this is fine, this is enough, good enough for me. I'm gonna buy that. But what if I'm buying something more specific or something more expensive or something more personal to me, for example, clothes, shoes, or watches or something like that, that I don't buy very casually or which is actually quite an investment. So I'm going to be more conscious there because I will make sure that it doesn't matter if I will pay a bit higher price, but the quality should be there. So that would be my concern there. Then influence by other in is another factor, but it is hard to analyze for marketer at what extent it influences buyers, as sources of influence can be many: family, friends, culture, etc. So influence by other is something that here we are talking about the social influence that we have a lot. So, for example, I see my brother wearing something, I see my friend wearing something, I see my any other trespasser wearing something, and I feel that it's actually good. It's actually good, and I start liking that product, and I start looking for that. So, but the problem is that it's actually a wide society, so it's really hard for marketers to actually analyze the entire society at once, until unless they are not a part of the society themselves and that particular region. So it's really hard for the management to evaluate the sector. And however, this particular sector doesn't influence that much as well. So it doesn't count that much in the influence category. So that's why they try to analyze it, but the information most of the time is a bit distorted than what it is in reality. Then advertisement is a conscious form of communication which is aimed to grab attention of the buyer. So we do advertisement through a lot of ways, through television, through social media, through newspapers, through blogs, through pop-up is in internet or something like that. Then packaging defines a brand as it is clear from human behavior that we value quality packing for it gives a sense of pride. So for example, if I'm carrying a Gucci bag or a Armani bag, it's gonna incorporate a sense of pride in me because I see upper class people carrying those bags. But when I'm carrying a local bag, I would be like, it's just a bag for me, right? So that's actually the influence of a brand on you, that you don't just care about the product itself, you care about the packing as well. So that's how influential things can be when we're talking about brand. Then convenience is another factor which includes easy access to outlets to buy products or to get after sales services. It influences the customer a lot as a sense of security is there. So if I see a lot of outlets of some company, for example, let's say McDonald's in this case, I see a lot of outlets of McDonald's. I see go around any place in the world, and I would see that there are so many McDonald's outlets. So that means that the company is really huge. So that impresses me very well because that it shows me that I can access that product anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter which corner of the world I am in. Then brand and benefits of strong brand. So we're going to define brand first. That is a name, mark, pattern, or combined form of any of these that makes it easy for customers to identify the seller or manufacturer. So if I see an Amazon symbol anywhere, I will be like, yeah, that's the Amazon symbol. Uh, if I'm not able to clearly judge it, what that symbol is, and I've seen that brand very frequently, then I'll be like, okay, I think that's the store, right? That's what we do in our usual life. So that's how influential brand symbols are. It also includes all the tangible and intangible assets that the business stands for. A brand is a representation of a product, goodwill, or worth that people are ready to pay for it. So we can buy shoes for as cheap as £10, £12, even maybe less than that. And but people actually pay £50, £60, £100, £200 for shoes. Why? Because that's the brand worth that they are paying for. That's not always the product is actually the brand worth. Maybe the product is not that much worth, but the brand name, for example, the Nike symbol, the Adidas symbol is actually the worth that they're paying for. Then benefits of a strong brand are numerous and some are listed below. The representation of a company in market, customer influence, emotional attachment along with pride and trust. So how does a brand actually represent a company in market? So let's say uh, there is a good shoe that I like of Nike that I particularly like, or a lot of people like Nike shoes. So there is some specific model of Nike shoes that a lot of people know about, right? So it's actually not about the Nike symbol anymore, about the tick mark symbol that the Nike use on the shoe. It's actually gonna be about the particular shoe because we're gonna talk about that shoe more than the Nike company itself. So that product is actually something that Nike is never gonna stop, or if they're gonna replace, they're gonna replace it by a real good thing, and they're gonna research a lot before they replace that. So that's why those products actually represent the company in the market, because they are actually something for which the customer likes the company a lot. Then customer influence. There's a lot of uh, customer influence that is because of the branding. So if I am brand conscious, definitely I'm influenced by a lot of what do you call brands and all. And if I'm really into brands and stuff like that, then I will be definitely specific to particular brand because I like that particular brand because of some reasons. Then emotional attachment along with the pride and trust. To understand the case of McDonald's in UK and how it won the customers market again, we have to understand the three approaches first. The first one is cognitive approach, which is the way in which a human starts behaving in a particular way on receiving a particular set of information from the environment. Then second one is behaviorist approach, is the way in there is a pattern can be seen in the consumer. For example, people drinking coffee early morning. So in advertisements of coffee and tea, we see that they're actually shot in early morning scenarios, like the sun is rising and someone is sitting out in the door in the morning. So that's something that is incorporated in society nowadays. We see people actually drink tea and coffee as soon as they wake up. So that's something that's influential at that extent that is actually a part of people's life these days. Then psychodynamic approach is the analysis of human drivers and force within the person and usually unconscious. It includes different structures of personality in a human. So psychodynamic approach is the analysis of human drivers. So basically there are some parts of our senses or our psychology, human psychology, that we are not even aware about, that we are actually getting influenced from something, and we feel that it's not something that we are sure about what is going on with us. We when I see some particular thing, I always run into that particular store, and then I come out and I'm like, I was not even planning to go there. Why you went in there? Why I bought this thing? So that's the psychodynamic approach that what we're talking about, because that actually they actually marketed the things that in that great way that actually influenced me, and I was not even aware that I was actually getting influenced. Then psychodynamic approach, we are discussing the features now. So unconscious mind state. So that's very important feature of psychodynamic approach, that the customer is not aware, that he's not conscious, he's not alert at the time. Then psyche, ID, ego, and superego are the three categories in psyche. We're going to define them in the coming slides. And defense mechanism, needed to balance between ego and superego. That's something that we're going to define as well. So psychosexual development and psychosocial development. Then what are the methodologies? That's methodologies are case study, dream analysis, Frey association, hypnosis. Now let's start with the approach first. As per this approach, personality is made up of three things: ID, ego, and superego. So what is ID? ID is defined as all instincts and primitives that a person is born with, including sexual orientation. These are the hidden secrets that people usually don't share much with anyone, and that's why they are hard to figure out by companies. So, for example, in case of McDonald's, they actually planned a campaign in a very good way, and the campaign was named "Make Up My Mind," in which they gave the customers the freedom to ask any question, and they will get an honest answer from the company, which is actually a big deal because no company gives this much freedom to the customer that they can ask anything, because they have so many policies and frameworks, they have so many secrets, so anyone can ask them the secret, but they were like, okay, we're gonna give any sort of answer, any sort of answer you are looking for, whatever question you have, and just ask, and we're going to give the answer as per the company. Then, ego is defined as development because of unrealistic ID and the external real world. So, what is an unrealistic ID? Unrealistic ID is so let's try to understand this in upcoming lines. It can be understood by what we want and what we can get in real world. So what we want is the ideal state, right? And what we can get in the real world is something that the options that we have in front of us. So, for example, I want uh, something which is cheap and real with quality as well. But when go in the market, I feel that most of the things are not of that quality what I'm looking for, but they are expensive as well. So that's the real world situation. For example, parents wanted healthy meals for children, happy meals. So this is the scenario that we're discussing for the McDonald case. So they parents actually wanted happy meals, but they wanted them to be healthy as well. So what McDonald did was actually added fibers in bun and gave the option for unsalted fry serving. So that was something they did to 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 win the hearts of the parents that we're actually caring about the children as well, and that's why we came up with this idea so that our meals are not just uh, uh, living in the fast food category and making people think that we're actually promoting an unhealthy lifestyle. Rather, we will take care of your children as well. Then, super ego is the combination of moral values society learned from parents and society both. In McDonald's case, a change in the image of the company was needed, and that was done by overall renovation in the company's theme of furniture, introduction of new menus, building a strong market presence again. So, super ego is basically a combination of moral values society learned from parents and society. So, the moral values that we have, moral values, how do we define moral values? Moral values is something that which I'm taught by my parents. I'm taught a particular lifestyle. So my lifestyle is actually something that I've not necessarily learned from my society. I've learned it a lot from my parents as well, from my home. The first school of every human being is home. So, or that culture that we follow. So that's actually something that defines me very well. Then, in McDonald's case, a change in the image of the company was needed, and that was done by overall renovation in the company theme of furniture. So, to win the hearts of people in a particular area, specifically in the case of UK, they actually have to do a lot of things. So they have to change the entire furniture. They change the entire theme of the furniture, and a new menu was introduced, building a strong market presence again. So they actually renovated the whole idea of McDonald's, and that's what actually worked for them very well. We're going to see it in the upcoming slides. Desired outcome. So, what were the outcomes that we actually wanted from all this, or the company actually wanted from as an objective? So, the initial objective was to increase the market share of McDonald's in UK. So, they wanted to increase the market share in UK because they were not performing very well. People were not anymore interested. It was McDonald's was not a brand when they started working with this thing. And how they justify that? So they justify that by a sale growth of 8.5% in Europe in 2008, which is actually an impressive figure. Then also increase in market share was something that they wanted to achieve, and it can be verified by the fact that McDonald's outperformed in 2008 when the average growth of this sector was, superseded by McDonald's itself. So the average growth of the sector means the average of all the industries combined together. So we come to an average, and McDonald actually outperformed in that sector. So that means they were performing really well. That's why they were above the average scale that other industries were performing in the same field. Change in the consumer perception was another motive, and it changed significantly as per the say of 30 plus brand metrics that were continuously tracked. So they actually had 30 plus parameters, which they were tracking to identify how good they're going, and they finally analyzed it and they came to the conclusion that they actually have performed well in on each and every parameter of these 30 plus parametrics. Then improved and renovated infrastructure was an important objective which was achieved in this entire procedure, as customer feedbacks were worked upon very well and an entire new look was given along with transparency and openness. So as I've discussed, actually gave the opportunity to customers to question anything, and they changed the entire furniture and everything. So that was something that was an impressive step because they wanted to improve and they were ready to renovate as well. So they renovated infrastructure, they renovated the way they deal with things, they renovated the policies of the company, they made the company more open and more transparent. Then, what is the conclusion that we can draw from this? So, there are three conclusions basically. It can be understood that a right understanding of consumer perception can help a company win the customer's trust again. So, a company which is not performing very good at the time they started all this thing, and then they suddenly went to 8.5% of the market share. They were outperforming the average performance of the sector. So those are really impressive figures. So if a company is doing that thing, that means it can be understood that a right understanding of consumer perception is very important in this case. And if you apply that very well, then you're gonna get this type of result. Then feedback plays an important role in not just understanding market but also have future strategies. So when they gave the opportunity to every single customer out there, the potential customer out there, that we are ready to answer whatever you want to ask, that was actually a way of gathering information, and they wanted accurate information, so they didn't. They removed all the policy constraints and every sort of those things. However, they must have some sort of policy constraints as well, but they try to make it as open as possible in the legal framework and to get as much as true information from the customer so that they can access the information in the ego part of the customer. So that's really important there. And they did it well, and they got the feedback, they analyzed it well, and then they planned and strategized thing accordingly, and that's the result that we have. A right way to approach ego might give impressive results. So ego, as I told you, is something that's very personal thing. So if a company is able to access your ego, then they actually are really good at the marketing strategy. That's what we can figure out from there. And that's all for the presentation. Thank you very much.